influences, you know, when I don't know how old I was pretty young. My dad grew up in the Bronx in New York, and he grew up with Gene Krupa, famous jazz drummer. And so, he wanted me to be a drummer. So he was pushing jazz on me at a very early age, which, you know, I loved it, but I kept hearing the horns and the guitar, and I'd be like, man, I like that, you know? And so I was really young, and I saw Les Paul on TV. And it was the greatest thing that I'd ever seen in my life. I remember seeing Les Paul. I remember seeing a really old rock and roll movie with Bill Haley and the Comets playing Rock Around the Clock, and the lead solo in that song tripped me out so bad that I knew that's what I wanted to do. So from Les Paul to Hank Garland to Chuck Berry, of course, those were I'm a little bitty guy at this time. Those led me to realize, wow, I wonder what my sisters are listening to, because I had 3 older sisters, so they all were into different kinds of music, and that's what turned me on. That's how I found Billy Gibbons, Jimi Hendrix, Robin Trower, Frank Marino, Humble Pie. I mean, all these great Deep Purple, Black Sabbath. All these bands started influencing me in this really weird way, and since my sisters were into different genres, I started to expand myself. So I was, of course, looking for the heaviest thing I could find. And I found myself listening to a lot of blues and a lot of country. You know, a lot of Chet Atkins, Jerry Reed, a lot of Muddy Waters, Elmore James, you know, Robert Johnson. And so my influences are crazy. When people come up to me today and say, you know, who really inspired you to play, you know, what you play today? Because I obviously don't sound like any of those guys I just mentioned. And I tell them, you know, Les Paul, Billy Gibbons, Michael Schenker, Frank Marino, guys like that. And they're wondering why I'm not saying Dimebag or Zakk Wylde, and it's, you know, it's nothing against those guys. It's just that's the way I was raised. Those were the influences that made me want to be a guitar player, and I still listen to all those guys to date, which is pretty crazy, you know. So my influences definitely are very wide. Lot of English, British stuff in there too. And also a lot of weird instruments. I love harmonica. I love harp. You know, I love B3. You know, a lot of horns. You know, old orchestra horns are real inspiring to me. When I listen to people like, say, Glenn Miller to Miles Davis, there are notes in there that stick into my head on a daily basis, you know. I'm not a schooled musician. I can't read music. I can't even tell you what scales I'm doing. So I learned completely from here and here. And it bothered me for a number of years because I really wanted to learn how to read music. But every time I would go in to get lessons, the teacher would be like, why? You know, what do you need to learn for? You play better than me. Get out of here, you know, or show me that, you know. And I kept running into that to the point where I was like, okay, whatever. I guess I'll never learn how to read music. Maybe I will one day, but yeah. As far as influences go, that's, and I'm sure I'm leaving out a good 20 or 30 people at least, you know. But I am a huge fan of music, all music, pretty much, with the exception of rap music. Yeah, other than that, good stuff.